Hi, everybody. I'm KHOU 11 meteorologist Pat Cavlin coming to you from Houston, Texas with a look at your Monday, October 3rd, 2022 tropical update on what's next now that Hurricane Ian is out of the picture. Obviously, a lot of folks in Florida and the Carolinas still recovering from that storm, so we want to kind of take a look down the road to see if there's anything else that we have to be concerned about over the coming days. And as we go to tropical satellite, you'll notice we are watching a few features from the Caribbean all the way out into the Atlantic, but it's really the tropical waves that are moving through the Atlantic that we are going to be keeping a close eye on as we go through the next few days. So we've got 4 waves in total, 1 in the Caribbean and then 3 in the Atlantic. I've highlighted the 2 that we're going to be watching the closest here over the next few days. And the reason why we're not watching all of them is just because there are certain atmospheric features that work against some of these waves developing, such as wind shear or dry air. So even though we've got 4 waves on the map, we're only going to be watching 2 here in the coming days. So one here is just to the south and west of the Cape Verde Islands. The other one here is about 500 to 700 miles to the east of the Windward Islands. And that's the one that we are really going to be watching carefully, at least here in the United States, over the coming days. So when you look at the life cycle of a tropical system, where does an invest area or a tropical wave fall? You know, when we say tropical wave, we're not talking about a wave in the ocean. We're talking about a wave in the atmosphere. So just kind of a batch of energy in the atmosphere. Obviously, if you have some energy in the atmosphere and the conditions are right, it could spin up into something. But when you look at everything, it's on the low end of concern. It's a disorganized system. So there's not a organized center of circulation. We're not seeing strong winds. It's just kind of a cluster of thunderstorms, a gang of thunderstorms kind of drifting across the ocean. But again, when you've got warm water temperatures and if the atmospheric conditions are just right, we take that tropical wave and we designate it as an invest, or an area that you should be invested in watching as we go through the next few days. And we've got 2 of them on the map right now, so let's get you to them and we'll show you the latest on them. This is Invest 92L. All you got to know is that we've got a high chance for development within the next 5 days, but look at the direction that the blob goes in, mainly towards the north and to the west. So this is not going to take a westward track across the Atlantic. We are expecting this kind of curve out to sea. So even if it does develop, and again, we've got high chances that some sort of development happens, we're not expecting this to impact land, at least in the near future. We're expecting it to kind of just drift over open water. The other feature that we are watching is Invest 91L. And this here does have lower chances for developing than that other wave, but also lower chances than even where it was earlier this morning. This is an afternoon update. And as of Monday morning, we had 40% odds of potential development. Now it's down to 30%. We'll probably see those odds kind of go back and forth over the next few days, depending on how well organized this thing can get. But it's got a few things working against it right now. Bottom line, it's not something to worry about, but it is something to watch. And the reason why is just because of the potential track that this thing could take over the next few days. Notice that it goes ultimately from the open Atlantic into the Caribbean. So that's a hot spot for development this time of year. And it's also a little close to home for us here in Houston, Texas, or pretty much for anyone in the United States. When you get something in the Caribbean this time of year, climatologically or historically speaking, that kind of could pose as a threat to the United States. Other spots, though, that have to watch will be in Central America here and Mexico as we get into next week. So we're not talking about any significant impacts from whatever this thing becomes, if anything, until about 7 to 10 days down the road. So again, right now we're at 30% odds for development. It is just a very disorganized batch of thunderstorms here along this tropical wave, but it is going to be something that we keep an eye on over the next few days. So let's take a look at what the models do with both of these systems. What we have plotted here is a 500 millibar vorticity. What is that? That is fancy talk for spin in the atmosphere. 500 millibars is the level that we're looking at, so it's the mid-level of the atmosphere, and vorticity, that's the scientific fancy name for spin in the atmosphere. Think of a vortex, right? So anything that spins, that's what vorticity is. And then we've also got surface pressure here, but it's low pressure. So the white lines here indicating areas where the pressure gets lower. So we're not seeing the whole map filled with pressure lines because that would just get too busy. So what we have circled here are areas of low pressure. And what you're looking for with those lines are closed circles of low pressure, right? Because anything in here just kind of indicates lower pressure, a couple thunderstorms, but when you start to see circles of white, that indicates where we could see maybe an organized area of low pressure, an organized storm system. So there's Invest 92L. That's out around the Cape Verde Islands. And then here's the other feature, and this starts to come in towards the Windward Islands as we get into the later part of the week. So watch the clock up here. For Thursday, we still don't have any land interaction really going on with either of these, and we also don't have any significant organization. So we fast forward the clock now. That system could develop up in the Atlantic as we go through the weekend, but again, it just kind of goes out to sea. This is the feature that we are going to be keeping an eye on. So by next Monday, so we're talking 7 days down the road, we don't have any closed feature on the surface pressure, but we are starting to see more red blobs here, indicating more spin in the atmosphere. So there is a chance that something tries to spin up, but again, we're talking 7 days down the road. And because we don't have any closed white circles, that would explain why the National Hurricane Center is keeping the odds for development low, at least at this time. That doesn't mean that it won't develop at some point, but we've got 10 to 12 days for this thing to sit over open water before anything potentially happens that could impact the United States, Mexico, or Central America. So it's something that we need to keep an eye on. It's not something to worry about at this point. But where could this thing potentially go? Well, the computer modeling on this, the spaghetti plots, remember each line represents a different computer model. We look at tons of models to make forecasts. They all pretty much keep it in this corridor, again, through the Caribbean and to the south. That can change, but that's where we're at right now. And a lot of the models kind of cut off at this point. So we really don't know what will happen once it gets into the central and into the western Caribbean. So a lot of open-ended questions here. It's just something that we're going to have to monitor. What is going to steer this thing in the coming days? It's an area of high pressure, which currently is over Canada. So this thing is way up to the north. The feature that we're watching is down here. So that's the difference in space between the two features that we're going to be watching here as we go through the next 7 days. But watch what happens as we animate this. As the lines start to move across the map, and I know it's kind of hard to see in the corner there, that high pushes south and it starts to build across the east coast. So that's going to be a huge influence on weather across the United States as we get into the start of next week. So again, this is 7 days down the road. This is Monday, October 10th we're watching. So high pressure, what it does is it blocks tropical systems from moving and it steers them. So a tropical system can't break in to that blue shaded area. It's got to stay away from it. So where does it go? It stays to the south. A word of caution though, as we watch the forecast over the next few days. This is where the models have that area of high pressure today on Monday, October 3rd. We're looking all the way ahead to Monday, October 10th, so it's 7 days down the road. And a lot can change. We know this. We saw it with the Ian forecast, how things kept changing day to day. Same deal with this. That high pressure system could be farther to the north by next Monday. It could be farther to the east next Monday. It could be weaker. There's a lot of different options that could happen. Whatever happens with that high will dictate the direction that this system, whatever it turns into, if anything, will go in. So while the United States doesn't see an immediate risk from this system now, in the wake of Ian, it is something that we are going to be watching very, very carefully. And not just for us here in the United States, but also for Central America and for Mexico. And again, the time frame for this is about 7 to 10 days away, so it's not something to worry about. It is just something to watch. And we're going to keep doing updates on it if it develops as we go through the next week. Again, there's nothing imminent, no imminent threats to Central America, to the islands, to Mexico, to the United States at this point. But of course, if that changes, you will be the first to know. And for us here in Houston, the nice weather continues. You can always get updates on the weather, whether it's tropics or local, through us on KHOU 11 News in Houston. You can also download the streaming app and you get more in-depth videos like this, long-form tropics videos on our streaming app. You can get that through Roku and through Fire TV. It's a free app. You get our newscast and our weather there, and you can also get us on social media. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.